All right, so we're ready to start. Thank you all for coming today. This panel was the brainchild of Achat Satuk, my older sister, Linda Bellardi, and she unfortunately couldn't be here today, but we carry on, and she will be wanting to know what everybody said and who all was there, and so Ganachish for being here. So her idea was, let's get some people together who have started learning our language at a not so young age. And so these are this is a nice group of people. Ganachish for sitting up here. And I think we're all gonna just kind of share a little bit about what we're doing, what's helping us to learn at this late age. And I'm sorry, not this late age. At
great age.
Mature. We're mature. And I don't really like to talk in front of people, but this is kind of nice and it's pretty comfortable. There aren't not too many people here. So I'll tell my story pretty quickly. And it's very similar to my sister's until a certain time. But we grew up in a household where in the summer we were with our grandmother, and she was our babysitter, kind of like you were talking about your grandmother being your babysitter. And so my mother would take us to Excursion Inlet, which is the salmon cannery in the summer, every summer from the time I was a baby. And my grandmother wasn't comfortable with English, and my mother and aunt were fluent, so they would all be speaking Tlingit all the time to each other, but not to us. So we grew up with it around us and in our ears, but they were not speaking to us. And so really we did not learn the language. We know some of it, we know some of the sounds. If I hear Tlingit, I know it's Tlingit, but that doesn't mean that I know the language. So we as adults have been learning, and it's a struggle. My sister has very poor vision. I have very poor hearing. So the two of us kind of help each other in that way. But we've been taking classes. These are my classmates. Yana 8 and Hutz Uhu and Chak and Juan Klein. And Linda, I've known her for years and years because we've gone to many, many language events together. And she's a Haida Linda. So my sister is Linda with Tlingit L, Linda, and this is Haida Linda. So I'm going to let someone else talk, and does anyone want to just jump in, or?
Stock, you had do a sock, Alice Taff. I'm just talking because nobody else jumped in soon enough. So what I'd like to talk about is what helps me the most to learn. And I think any of the activities help. Everything helps. The crucial factor is time spent with the language. If I keep track of my time that I spend in the language, whether it's with books, recordings, with people, listening, speaking, reading, writing, I can't kid myself that I should have gotten further because I haven't put in enough time. So it's a diligence. The people who I see here who spend a lot of time doing homework, they're advancing much more quickly than I am because I don't put in the time. But for all of the things that work, for me, what is most efficient, what I have to spend the least time in to get something in my head that I can put out there without thinking about it, is when I am talking one-to-one with a person, they say something meaningful, and there's some kind of electrochemical energy that activates my brain and builds a stronger neuron and stays that way for sooner and longer than if I read in a book and say I have to say it 30 times, that to build that neuron. So I can have somebody tell me something once. So I was at Zerelda's. Kruger was there with his kids, and I said, I had heard the word, I knew I should know it. I said to him, I want to say later. And he said to me,
Ziagen.
Now I can say Ziagen whenever I want. Ziagen.
Well, Barbara Craver, you chatuasak, Hawaii uawat. I grew up in Hawaii. I came to Juneau when I was 22, and I've lived here ever since, off and on. But I never knew anything about the Tlingit language until about 4 or 5 years ago when I started going to the Tlingit Learners Group that's at the downtown library with Umsiku, Richard Radford, Dleka Hinach, and it was a very opening and welcoming group, and I saw it in the paper for the longest time and didn't go because I didn't know any Tlingit. And you don't learn unless you go. So luckily I did finally get the courage to go, and I knew a whole lot more than I ever knew before I started because I knew nothing. And I found it to be a very welcoming, easy group to get started in. We just did sounds. I got to meet people. I made new friends, and I have to say that after you've lived in a community for over 40 years, to be able to make new, meaningful friendships with people with common interests is a continuing joy. And I found that the friends that I made in Tlingit Learners, who's uhu, and the people that I took university classes with have become ahuni. And we are in the canoe together, and we are all trying to learn as much as we can. And even though I feel like I know almost nothing, I know so much more than I did know, and it makes me feel so much more connected and appreciative of ha'ani, Tlingit ani. And I am so grateful that there are teachers out there who are willing to share with us and help us learners. Gunash chish.
I am also a language learner who started just a few years ago. My first regular exposure to the language was beginning Tlingit, and I took it as a distance learning class. The instructor was Kuliak Robbie Littlefield, and it was also the first distance learning class I'd ever taken. And that was not as much of a challenge as I was afraid it would be, and I was glad because that helped me concentrate on what I really needed to concentrate on, which was the language. And I've since taken intermediate Tlingit, and now I'm taking the first semester of advanced. And I learned from hearing and reading stories, and I really enjoy the games that Quan Thane has created for her students, which are really good for adults too, or learners of any age, really. And so I wanted to thank all my teachers and my classmates and look forward to continuing with the language. One piece of advice that I've received and wanted to pass on is once you start, don't stop.
Hi, Linda.
Skiljade Nudie Kyung. I'm very honored to be here with my Tlingit friends. I started learning Hadkil through reading and writing. My Chana and Nana were some of the people that agreed upon a writing system for the Haida language. And I remember when they came home from Fairbanks and they had this new writing system, our Chana gathered a whole bunch of us grandchildren and took us to a class that was taking place during the summertime. And he was so proud of the 4K. We have 4K sounds. And those were some of the hardest sounds for me to learn, but with practice, I was able to get it down. But many years went by without an opportunity to learn anymore. I think I was maybe 12 at the time, 11 or 12. But through the work that I do with the KIC, I was given the opportunity to be an apprentice with some fluent speakers, and I learned best through repetition, hearing things over and over. And I haven't become fluent yet, but whatever I have learned from my mentors, I teach to other people. So that's, I learned through that too. I learned through teaching. And so I use different teaching methods that I've learned from other language teachers around me, not just Haida, but Tlingit and Tsimshian as well. And so I, bring all those ideas to my students. And one of the things that helps me too is when I'm learning something, I'll put it into a tune. That was one of the methods that one of my Tsimshian language teachers had used. And so, about 12 years ago, there was a cohort of us in Ketchikan, and we were making up a song for "How Are You? I'm Fine." And so we would sing "Sunu dung hey dung, sunu dung hey dung, di la gung." So we put it into familiar tunes, and so we were joking around because we were doing that with other things. We're not going to be speaking, we're always going to be singing to each other. But it's a helpful tool. So I just have to tell a cute story too about something that happened to me. I was in Masset working with an elder, and I was trying to say something to him, and I didn't say it how he thought I should have said it, and he just kind of looked at me. And then I asked him to correct me, and then I was walking home afterwards, and I thought, boy, that would have been cute if I was a little kid, but not coming from a middle-aged woman. So, yeah, so the, repetition, and then same as what Alice had said, hearing the language, and then actually reading for me too, because that's the way we were raised, is, in the Western schools, we had to learn to read and write, and so that's one of my strengths, is reading and writing, and it does help me as I'm hearing the language as well. How for listening?
Chataya, it's me. I would like to, excuse me. I see my first teacher here, Kuliek, Haslil Kagwantan, Haslil Kagwantan, all my grandparents. But she was the first time I went to school. I ran away from Wrangell in 1993, and I wanted to go to college and be somebody. And I figured, golly, if I went to college, I'd be 40 years old when I graduated, And I was laying there in my apartment. I thought, I'll be 40 years old anyway if I don't go to college. I might as well go. So I went, and I was trying to impress my first husband. And I went there, and I was looking through these classes, and I thought, well, I'm going to take beginning Tlingit. And I took it, and I went in there, and when she opened her mouth, I went, oh, and I was immediately transported back to my grandparents. And I wanted that, but I was young, and I just wanted everything else too. And Western way, and everything gets in the way of language learning. And I held on to that from 1993 and 1995, and I went there and listened. And I heard Chut say you were his teacher, and then when I'm teaching in Wrangell, people would come up and just say, what's the EAT? And then they do the keys method, and I go, Kutliek. Yeah, my name's Atluni. I said, oh my goodness. So I've got people that'll talk to me that take the online classes with Kutliek, and it is all about repetition, and you have to do it. And our teachers would say, you need to keep listening to the tapes, and they were tapes then, they're little cassette tapes for beginning Tlingit. And then Florence would talk to us, and we'd have to listen to those. And I was just wanting to do everything, though. It was like I woke up, and the last time I danced, I was 8 years old, and I remember Herman Davis's brother being there in Wrangell, and he was a king. I mean, he had on that chilkat robe, and he had on that he had that hat, but it seemed like it was a beige color that he was wearing. And I was 8 years old, and I was looking across the gym, and I saw him. I was like, it looked just like my grandpa. But that was the year that my grandpa had gone. And I'd forgotten all about it after 8 years old. I just went about my life, and because my grandparents were gone. One went, and 6 months later, the other one was gone, and they were 88 years old. And I was 8, but it seemed like I was a lot younger because they packed me. Where were they? Like my mother, they packed us. But I was raised by them, and they spoke Tlingit like Kashka, and Kashka's grandparents, and you heard it all the time. So I speak a Tukane, baby Tlingit. And I could understand you guys, but I don't know how I understand, because I couldn't tell you what words you were saying, but I know what you're saying. And so I'm a learner like everyone else, and if I don't practice and keep current on it, Ari and Paul, Wasadua Sok Tlingit Yachlat would say, I speak to my cat. She always talked to her cat, or Tlingit. And so I'm teaching now nouns to kids, but I have a grandson, Dylan, and he's in Seward right now at Avtech, and he texts me in Tlingit. He texts me and puts words together, and I could say now, like my teachers, it's there, but it's not what it is, He just, Cook 2721 right to me, things like that, and I really like that. He's one out of all those kids that we've been teaching. Like Kutlak last night, her students stood up, and they talked about her. Dastia said that when the seniors graduated in Sitka, they did their introductions, and they did the opening speech all in Tlingit, and it Kutlak was the teacher. Kuatlatu we Kutlak wedu. My other teachers were Kutlak, Kanak, Kakatlat, Kechne, Chwainak, Nakitla, Sekut, Chatlier, Chene, Kashke, all of them. Jock with that prasa. You got to learn prasa. I was trying to make us learn how to record our elders, and all those years that we were learning. Robbie was recording everything and recording names. I said to her the other day, how many names? 6,000 names recorded. I'm really glad to be here. I'm going to for the opportunity. I still listen to I start dreaming it, And Nora would be saying that she's just got Kwan. And I see my grandma there, though, and her words are Nora's, and I go, Plake, what's in there? You know, I was looking, and she's talking in Nora's voice, and I make myself wake up. I'm listening to a tape, and it's my grandparents talking, and it's Kechune. Gunchish.
Anyone want to?
I
more?
want to say something about Satuk, your
Oh, yay.
sister, who is Ahuni. She's my neighbor, and we've probably lived in the same neighborhood for decades without really knowing each other. And through Schlinket, we've become friends, and through her friends have become my friends. And when we can take the time, we will text to each other in Schlinket, because there is an app called Chert that allows you to type things in the correct Schlinket alphabet. And I find that when I'm texting Satuk, I can take the time to look stuff up, to really say what I want to say, things that aren't right off the top of my tongue. So that's one more reinforcement, and she will reply back to me in Schlinket. And you get good at a few little phrases. Yeah, it's good, feels good.
I don't know how we're doing on time, but I will just add that about spending time in the language, all these people sitting here we are going to forget everything this summer unless we get together. So we have been meeting in person or with the help of Zoom every week all summer, and now twice a week, you know, so, and then 2 classes, so that really helps. And I think everybody has said something about building the community of learners. I mean, you got to talk to people, with people.
I had one thing to add. Mary Beth is here. Da Ka Hook A. So Mary Beth is, she lives in Huna, and we have a study group, and we've just started it up again. So once a week we try to get together on Wednesdays, and it's just a group of people that are interested in Tlingit. It's not necessarily a beginning group, but anyone can come. So for example, the game that we played before the spelling bee today, for those that were here, we played that in our Huna study group. And Mary Beth, she knows a lot of Tlingit because she's involved with the National Park Service, and they do the maps, and she's also collected a zillion stories. And she's always asking me these questions that I don't know the answers to. She'd say, why is it like that? Why is it like that? Why is that? And I'm, that's Kwasiku. But it's just very, very nice to have company on this journey to learning. But I teach elementary, so I'm with little kids all day teaching them Tlingit, but it's also very nice to get together with adults. So my friends here that I get together with on Zoom, and also with my in-person study group. So, kind of cheese.
Can I add to that?
Yes.
So, I do annoy the heck out of you, Daphne, by asking these why questions, but one of the things that has really helped me is this answers to the whys, like looking for relationships between words. I don't know why, that's just the way my brain works. So if I can understand a relationship between a group of words and how they're related, it sort of helps me. But Duffy, you also helped me to be a better speaker at home, because I feel like when I'm listening, I can pick up words, but I consider myself a terrible speaker because I don't practice enough, even though I have Tlingit speakers in my home. My daughter speaks better than I do. But Duffy helped me by putting together a series of phrases for like dinner time conversation. And so she actually helped type them up, and I put them on construction paper and tape them to the kitchen table. And there's similar ones for bedtime that are taped outside my daughter's door. So I like read it and go, okay, that's right, that's what I can say to her. Because otherwise, I don't practice enough. I hear it all day long at work, but I'm not saying the words. And I don't have a lot of courage to speak to elders because I'm terrified I'm going to say the wrong thing. So I don't know, those are silly little things, but they've really helped me say whole sentences rather than just a word, like a noun, for example. So I've really appreciated that Kushke has done that for our family.
So
we need to talk about Zoom a little bit more. It's a great
Yes.
platform.
Go for it.
And I just saw on email from the university says that as students, we also have some access to Zoom. And it's a program that you can meet face to face with anybody else who agrees to turn up on a certain channel. You can show them stuff on the computer. You can do all sorts of stuff. And then where would we be without YouTube? And lincolnlanguage.com, that Juneau puts more stuff in every single day. There's so many resources out there that I find very helpful. And I hope other people are aware of them so they can take advantage.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to add anything? I think we might be out of time, and I know Matthew's up there.
I have a question. Do you guys have advice for non-traditional students in general when it comes to sticking with it? You know, because I've also worked with non-traditional students in a non-language context, and the hardest thing is people, you know, are like Juan Plain said, we have a Western world that doesn't encourage this kind of work. You know, like people will say, oh, I got a job, I got this, I got that, and I just don't have time. So do you have any thoughts about, you know, what you would say to someone who thinks, I can't do this because I'm not a full-time student, I'm not 18, you know?
I think friends. The friends that you make through learning, it's the buddy system. And, you know, that just at least gets you both doing something at the same time. It's a commitment to somebody else. That gets me going, I would have to say. So get them to make a study partner, or more.
Are you thinking of somebody older than 18 who says they can't do it?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's, I guess we didn't deal with our age. Forget about it, just do it.
Well, I've been walking past Mark Wheeler's house when I've been coming down here, and he's got one of those big signs on his lawn that says, in really big letters, "Don't give up." And then I stopped and I looked, and it said something like "Find your fire." So I don't know what it is, but it says, "Don't give up." So I've been walking by it, and I told Linda about it, and Linda said that to me as I'm going out the door, "Don't give up." Yeah, so it's kind of like that sign's been speaking to me. Have you seen that?
Just tell them,
Yeah.
you better start now.
Okay, Puchak, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, Dinesh. Oh, Robbie.
So he's asking for a way to get some ideas on how to pick yourself up by your bootstraps, so to speak. Leanne Hinton wrote a book that really impressed me, and I had the feeling that through reading her ideas and her suggestions on how to teach yourself and how to go about learning by yourself, she calls her book "When Teacher Isn't Fluent." And it's for languages that are being lost, and you can't find a fluent teacher to coach you and to help you every day. What you can do to help yourself, and she has amazing ideas. I really recommend that, and it was almost as if she was giving me permission to just slide it into my life as an everyday thing, and wonderful ideas on how to do that. Just be in your face. If you're saying thank you at the grocery store, just say "Sheesh."
And who is that?
Leanne Hinton.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was just like a little article. It's not, is it a whole book? Okay. Yeah, because I've read the article many times, but it's just a little, a couple of pages. Okay, great.
One more thing. After in 1993, I never did look at it again because I was too busy getting married and stuff. And so I started to go back and see Alaska was doing classes. And I went back in 2001 and started going to classes. And then I went into Gold Belt and started working. I met Jock, and then we've been just going along that path. One thing that I'm doing when I teach is that I like that Garcia Ramirez, stick figures and doing stuff. I have the kids, whenever I'm teaching them, I say, well, where are you going? We're going to Ketchikan to run for cross country. So they say, Kitchande, ya nachtachen, and and they're going to go ya nishich. They're going to run, and then they have to draw a picture of themselves smiling and running, or else they're smiling on the airplane. So we've been just doing that lately to teach a language, and I find that I learn more if I have to teach. So I'm teaching, whatever. I heard them say it again the other night. If you know anything, teach it. Teach it what you know.
The best way to learn is to try to teach it.
That's the best way.
Okay.
Which way?
Which way?
Which way?
Gonna cheese?